Welcome to ABC Interactive English. Hello everyone, I'm Karen.
And I'm Mike. And today and tomorrow, we're going to be checking out some very, very interesting and unusual places to live all around the world. What makes these places unusual? Well, they're actually on the water. Homes are floating on the water or built above the water. So imagine if you walk out of your house instead of walking out to the street and getting on your bicycle or in your car, you go down some steps and you get into a boat or onto a little fishing vessel, or maybe you're even swimming from your house across to your friend's house in order to play or something like that. That is kind of what life might be like inside one of the world's floating villages.
That actually sounds very interesting.
It kind of sounds cool.
And from the way how you described it, I would imagine it to be a beautiful place and a great spot for a vacation, right?
It could absolutely be a great spot for a vacation, unless it starts raining or, you start to feel a little seasick because your house is moving.
Floating.
I don't know. It's probably one of those things we can't imagine what it's like to live there unless we do. But
That's
it would
true.
be a very different way of spending your time and having your daily life. So let's get a little bit of an idea. Crack open a little window on this part of the world as we visit the world's floating villages.
When you say village, a picture will pop up in people's minds. They'll see a small town in the country. It's often close to a river, lake, or sea, and the houses are close together.
All right, so yes, we're looking at the world's floating villages. Now, a village, we'll explain later, is basically just a place where a few different people or families will live. But a floating village is very unusual. So what is floating?
Okay, well, let's look at this word floating, and that is an adjective. It just means to rest on the surface of a liquid without sinking or drift in a gas such as air without falling. So you're floating in the sky, floating on the water. For example, I went to the floating market the other day. Just like the floating village, floating market is a place where you can go and buy something, like go shopping, buy some fruits, and that sounds pretty exciting, right?
Exactly, because it's on the water. So when we say floating village, floating market, whatever, we basically are saying something that is built on the water instead of on the land. And in this case, we're talking about a floating village. A village is basically just a community where groups of people, different people and families are living together, but not very many of them, not very many people in a village. If we go bigger than a village, then we might talk about a town. And bigger than a town, of course, would be a city. So a city might be hundreds of thousands or millions of people. A town might be 50,000, 100,000. A village could be 50 people, 100 people, maybe 500 people, but not a lot more. So it's very, very small. You'll find villages up in the mountains, out in the countryside, far away from any other towns or cities, these little places, these little villages. So when you say village, the article begins, a picture will pop up in people's minds. If I say, I went to a lovely village last weekend, we drove around, saw some beautiful scenery, ate lunch in a little hotel or something, that gives you a certain idea. A picture pops up or appears in your mind. And what other things might people imagine when they hear village?
Well, they'll see maybe like a small town in a country. It's often close to a river, lake, or sea, and the houses are close together. So these are the things that would come to your mind. These pictures will pop up in your mind when you say the word village,
That's true.
right?
We often say a fishing village or a mountain village or something like that.
That's right. And then you would probably think that everybody knows each other in the village because it's very small, right?
Exactly. A few stores, maybe a bank, a post office, a little store, a market. That's about it in a village. No shopping malls, department stores, or big sports stadiums. Villages are too small, but many villages might be near a river. In fact, lots of places that people live will be near rivers because rivers are ways that water travel through the land. Rivers usually start in the high parts of the land, in the mountains, and all the rain that falls will collect in this low area, and it's kind of like a road or a path for the water as it goes slowly downhill. The river can go for hundreds of kilometers, and most rivers will eventually end at a lake or go into the ocean. But if you want to move things through the land, not on a road, a river can be a very efficient way. A lot of people will know the Yangtze River in China, the Nile River in Egypt, the Amazon River, of course, in Brazil, in South America, and the Denshui River here in northern Taiwan near Taipei. So these are all rivers, and often they are great for people to live near because, of course, we get water from the river, water that we can drink, not salt water, but fresh water in a river. So let's take a break, and then when we come back, we will find out more about life in a floating village.
Now, put that village in the water. You have a floating village. In some, the houses are on boats in the water. In others, the houses are on wood poles, so they're above the water. Boats are the main way to get around. Also, some floating villages have bridges. They link the houses to each other.
All right, so if you've ever been out in the country, up in the mountains to the farming areas of Taiwan on a little road, you probably drove through a village. So that is not too surprising and a common thing to find away from the city. Now, most of these villages are on ground, land, stone, things that you can walk on, but not all of them.
That's right. Okay, well, now put that village in the water.
Sploosh.
Ooh, I just have this beautiful picture in my mind when I do that. Okay, you have a floating village. So put the village in the water. Now you have a floating village. In some, the houses are on boats in the water. In others, the houses are on wood poles, so they're above the water. Okay, so we know that there are different types of houses in this floating village. Some are actually floating in the water, but some are on the wood poles, right?
Exactly.
That are supporting the house, and they're above the water.
That's right. Sometimes they'll be high above the water because, of course, as you know, through the year, the water can rise and fall if there's rain or if it's dry or something like that. So these poles will keep the houses off the water, over the water, and for that we would say above. Is something is over your head, not touching your head, not on your head, but over your head, then it is above your head. So birds will fly above your head, but if you put on a hat, it is over your head, unless you lift the hat to say, good day, and then the hat will be above your head. So if it's over something but not touching it, but certainly higher, it is above. And these poles will keep these houses off the water, over the water, above it. How do you get around? Well, of course, boats are the main way to get around. You could try to bicycle to your friend's house, but that won't work. So you would need a boat to get around. Also, some floating villages have bridges. So if you're trying to get across a small street or a small area of water, or maybe onto the land, they might have a bridge there, or you might just have to row yourself, paddle yourself over to the land.
So that means that most of these people would have a boat, right?
I would think so, maybe 2 or 3.
Because if you don't, it would be hard to get around,
Yeah,
right?
sure. You can't swim home with all your groceries.
That's right. Okay.
Eggs will get wet.
And we're also looking at this word here, main, and that is an adjective. So if you say main something, basically it just means the most important, primary. And for example, you could say, she gave us a list of the main chapters to study for the final exam. So if you have a final exam, you have a test to study for, maybe the teacher will tell you the main chapters, the important chapters, which you have to study, and then you know these questions will be on the exam.
Exactly right. The most important ones, the ones that you would use the most often. And here we also have this word bridge. A bridge is something that people build, and it goes from one piece of land to another piece of land, usually over something that you can't walk across. So maybe the land drops down and it goes very deep. You don't want to walk all the way down there and all the way back up. You build a bridge, or maybe it's a river or something like that. You don't want to swim across the river all the time. How would cars get from here to here? So you would take a bridge. Anyone who's driven around Taiwan will take bridges over rivers or over valleys or things like that. It's usually made of stone or wood, and cars, people, trucks, animals can cross these things. And what do the bridges do?
Well, they link the houses to each other. So when we say they link the houses together or to each other, it just means that they connect the houses together, right? So you have the bridge so we can get from one house to another house without rowing your boat.
There you go. So now we have a good idea of what floating villages are and how people live in them. Let's spend our time tomorrow actually going to some of these villages. Different parts of the world, different ways that people make it work, but a very interesting place to make your life.
Sounds interesting.
All right, guys.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
When you say village, a picture will pop up in people's minds. They'll see a small town in the country. It's often close to a river, lake, or sea, and the houses are close together. Now, put that village in the water. You have a floating village. In some, the houses are on boats in the water. In others, the houses are on wood poles, so they're above the water. Boats are the main way to get around. Also, some floating villages have bridges. They link the houses to each other.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看这一课的重点单字。第一个 river 名词河。Paul went fishing by the river. Paul 去河边钓鱼。下一个单字 above 介系词在什么之上。The airplane flew above the clouds. 飞机飞在云层上方。下一个单字 main 形容词主要的。Zach bought a house on the main road. Zach 在主要道路上买了一栋房子。最后一个单字 bridge 名词桥梁。They built a new bridge over the river. 他们在河上建了一座新的桥梁。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个 pop up 突然出现，这是一个口语用法。Pop 是跳出、冒出的意思。我们来看看这个例句。A message popped up on the screen. 萤幕上突然出现了一则讯息。下一个文法 get around 往来各地，四处走走。我们来看看这个例句。David drove his new car to get around. David 开着他的新车四处绕绕。最后一个文法 A links B to C. A 把 B 和 C 连接起来。Link 是动词连接。课文中的 each other 是代名词，意思是互相彼此。我们来看看这两个例句。第一个 The new highway links the city to the airport. 新的公路把城市和机场连接了起来。下一个例句 They help each other with their homework. 他们互相帮忙做作业。 以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，我们下一课再见，拜拜。
Hey, it's Kiwi on the street. I'm Kiki.
And I'm Winnie. But Kiki, can we just take a really quick break because my leg is so numb because I have been standing all day and it's just numb. I can't feel it.
Winnie, I think you mean that it's numb.
Numb.
Numb. You don't need to say the B. The B is silent. So let's work on some pronunciation today. All right, we're gonna work on some pronunciations. Can you please read this sentence for me?
I have no ear for music.
I have no ear for music. I have no ear for music.
Very good. Okay, how about this one?
She got married last year.
She got married last year.
She got married last year.
Very good. What have we learned today? It's time to work on some pronunciations. Today we have the word ear and year. So these two words are very similar, but don't worry, I will teach you how you can tell the difference between the two. The first sentence is, I have no ear for music. When we see the word ear, we kind of pronounce it like the word rear, like the rear view mirror. So ear is said with an E sound at the beginning. So your mouth will smile, ear. Then for the next sentence, we have she got married last year. So it's kind of similar, but we see the Y, and that is similar to the words like you or yes. The sound goes forward with a y sound. So your smile isn't as big. She got married last year. That's all we have for today. Kiwi later.